Just to give a sense of the span of your relationship with the former president, you ended up chairing the National Organization on Disability, which he was
our honorary chairman for 28 years until his death.
And you had a chance as the chair of that to actually interview him not long ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, about the subject of disability. He, of course, signed the Americans with Disabilities Act when he was president. He believes one of his most significant achievements. What was that discussion like?
You know, he has always been a strong proponent ever since that day on the lawn 28 years ago. And it was easy to have the conversation with a friend. And he alluded to that moment and said quite proudly of all the things that he had done. Maybe, and I don't take it out of context, that might have been the thing of which he was most proud, because he elevated the rights of people with disabilities. And remember, when we concluded the conversation, and we both agreed, now, having elevated the rights of disabilities was one more stage, or one more effort we have to make, and that's get more of them in the workforce, and he agreed with that.
And, of course, when he's having this discussion with you in 2015, at that point, he's in a wheelchair himself.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Governor, you know, this is a tough time for you. Not only did you lose a friend and a mentor in George H.W. Bush, but it's just a few months after the passing of John McCain, another very close friend of yours. It's a tough season.
Well, you know, when you think of these two men, and you think of their voices within the party, their voices within the country, but they're global voices that I think are going to be missed. And when we're trying to, we want to emulate and admire all the personal qualities of President Bush, and we focus on him today, but we have forgotten, I think, the historic contributions he made to the global scene in that brief span of 4 years. The Cold War victory, dealing with Gorbachev during the dissolution of the Soviet Union, keeping Margaret Thatcher and Mitterrand under control as they're unifying Germany, the liberation of Eastern Europe. He had a vision. He was instrumental in forming I think it was the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Council, because he saw the world, perhaps the trade world, the geopolitical world shifting in that, and at the same time worked hard on the Americans with Disabilities Act, bringing both parties together. It's a rather remarkable 4 years.
And you talked about the role of George H.W. Bush and John McCain in the party, a very different Republican Party than now exists. Do you think that the party will ever go back to them? What would it take?
Well, I'm hopeful that as we get into this next Congress and we take a look at the leaders we've lost the past 2 years, strong partisans, moral compass, azimuth in one direction, embrace the traditional role of the Republican Party in global affairs, strong defense, reduce the deficit, but also the approach that they brought to the whole notion of governance, honesty and candor, reaching across the aisle looking for bipartisan solutions. We've honored them at these ceremonies. We write eulogies with flowering language, and I think perhaps now is the time for the party to rethink where we've been and where we want to be, and take a look at both of them to say, you know, there's some lessons here, lessons of both leadership, humanity, passion, and compassion. Maybe we start thinking and acting that way in the future. It'll be up to the leaders to do so.